Hey guys, Jared, Transformational Coaching, Action is Transformation. In this video, we're going to get in the difference between codependence and interdependence. Codependency is such a big topic that I see in relationships, and I hear about it all the time. I used to be very codependent. I have a number of clients who've been codependent in the past. So I think it's really important that we address this topic of the difference between codependency in relationships and interdependence, because there's a lot of facets of an interdependent relationship that can look like a codependent relationship, but isn't. Codependent is usually more negative because we need that other person, whereas an interdependent relationship is we want to be with that person. So I'm going to outline in this video the differences between codependent relationships and interdependent relationships so you can identify which one you're in, and then also the importance of having interdependent relationships in your life. Let's get into it. And so first off, before I actually get into this, guys, I just want to let you know that Laura and I are doing a sacred relationship series as well. So if you'd like to join that, check out the link in the description box below. Beautiful. What is a codependent relationship? A codependent relationship is the type of relationship where you need something from that other person and they need something from you, and you're both trying to get those needs met in a manipulative, hurtful way. So perfect example of this. Let's say you're in a relationship with someone you really deeply love, and you know that they're taking care of the bills. So you are dependent upon them for your finances. But let's say that they don't have the ability to process or understand their emotions. So they get home and they're really upset and they're aggravated, and then they use you to process their emotions. They need to talk to you to be able to talk themselves down and calm themselves down. That is an example of codependency because it's based off of mutual need. That is, we actually need that person. It's not that we want them, we need them. All codependent relationships come down to you not being able to meet a certain need within your life or not having the capability to do it, and that other person not having the capability to meet their need. And so what happens is you make this unconscious, you could call it soul agreement, you can call it whatever type of agreement you want to call it, but you make an agreement with each other to, hey, I'm going to take care of you and give you money so you can be secure in that way because you don't have a job or you don't know how to be secure within yourself financially. And then you're going to help me process my emotions. And so what happens there is you have two people who come together and they both need one another. They both, without each other's being there, without them, with one person just being there in this way and the other person being there in that way, they wouldn't be able to survive. They wouldn't be able to cope or hang. That's an example of a codependent relationship. And the reason why that is unhealthy is because anytime that we're in a codependent relationship where we need someone in our life to show up a certain way, then we'll start being fearful and controlling when they don't show up in the way that they need to show up in. And so that's where people start acting erratic, where individuals get in fights, where things start going wrong in the relationship, because without that person, you're not going to be okay. Anytime that we're in a relationship with someone else where we need them because we don't have the capability, or we don't think we have the capability, or we haven't taken the time to develop that part of us, anytime where we need that other individual, what will happen is when they start slipping away or slipping back or showing signs of not being there for us in the way that we need them to, we're going to start getting nervous and worried and anxious and start trying to unconsciously control them. And when you try to unconsciously control a person in that way, what happens is they'll start perceiving you as erratic. You might even ask yourself, why am I acting this way? This is so weird. I've never done this before. Well, it's because they're pulling back. So let's say you're in a relationship and you're financially dependent upon another person, and you know that your value in the relationship is your ability to process their emotions for them. Well, if you get in that relationship and let's say that you suddenly start to notice that they're not there financially supporting you as much, you might try to overgive something. You might try to start giving more value. You might try to start being there for them in more ways emotionally than you were before, because unconsciously you are dependent upon them for your own security. And that's why codependency is unhealthy, because ultimately it places our emotional security, whether it's in the finances, whether it's in love, whether it's in our ability to process emotion, whatever it may be, it puts it in that other person's power. And so they have control over our emotional well-being, or over our emotional state. No one has control over your emotional state. You have complete control over your emotional state. It's just that we might not know that when we think we can't create wealth for ourselves, or when we think that we can't process our own emotions, or when we feel like we need help from another individual in some way. So it's really important to understand the difference here between codependency and interdependency. Let's get into interdependence now. And then after I just define interdependence, I'm actually going to go into this a little bit deeper and talk about the differences and how to know when you're being codependent or interdependent. And guys, if you have any questions or thoughts or anything at all, feel free to put them in the comment section, and I will get to them as soon as we're done this part. So what is interdependence? Interdependence is a relationship that isn't based off of mutual need, where it's like, okay, I have to have this, and if I don't have this, it's not going to be okay. It's a relationship that's based off of mutual want. I want you in my life. So it's important when it comes to understanding interdependence and codependence and the difference between the two. Think about it in terms of needs and wants. In an interdependent relationship, we're going to want something, but we don't need that other person, or like we won't survive, or feel like we won't survive without them, whatever they're providing. It's an exchange. It's a good exchange. It's an equal exchange. It feels good. Interdependence is based off of want. Codependence is based off of need. So it's important to recognize when we want something from another person. Do we want it because it's going to make our life better, or do we feel like we need it or else we're not going to survive? If the feeling is I feel like I'm not going to survive unless I have this, that's codependency. And some people get this feeling around emotions because they don't know how to stabilize emotionally, so they need someone to process their own emotions for them. And other times it's for finances. People are really scared about finances, so they're like, I just need to attract someone who has a lot of money, and I'm just going to I need a sugar daddy. And well, that's a codependent relationship as well. So it's important to recognize whether we're in a codependent state in some area of our life or in a interdependent state. And the best way to know that is needs versus want. If you have a need, everyone has needs and wants. That's perfectly normal in life. But if your need is to the point where if you don't have it from that other person and you can only get it from them, you're totally emotionally destabilized and you don't know what to do with yourself, that's codependency. And this is where people get caught up. This is where it goes bad. Individuals start fighting with each other because once they perceive that other person is not giving them that need that they have, they start getting very defensive and they start acting erratic and they start trying to control that other individual. And the reason why they're trying to control them is because if they don't get that need met from that other person, then their survival is on line. That's a codependent relationship. Whereas an interdependent relationship, it says, look, I got everything that I want. I just want you in my life, or I just want this aspect of you, or I want this because I just want more of it. And I think it's going to make my life better. So let's go for it. Interdependence, there's not that clinginess there, and you'll feel it. I can feel codependence or interdependence in my energy field. Sometimes I'll have people who reach out to me who want to start their own coaching business, and they'll be looking to me for all the answers. And there's a lot of codependency. They think I'm going to solve all their problems for them. And I can help them with a lot of things because I've done it successfully. But I can only help them to a certain extent. And I can feel that cleanness. Whereas other people who are like, well, I just want to learn how to make more money in my business and my work. And so I would love to share, get your tips and your ideas and your thoughts on it. And so with those individuals, it feels a lot lighter because they're not codependent upon me. to run a successful business. They have the confidence that they can do that within themselves, and they're okay with that. So the codependence and the interdependence, the biggest thing here is just recognizing the difference between a need and a want. With someone who's in a codependent relationship, there's a lot of need. It feels like suffocation, and you'll feel it. It'll be a tightness in your body and in your energy field. It's, my God, if I don't have you, then I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to freak out, and I can't, like, that's codependency. Whereas interdependence is, I have everything I need on this end, but I want something more. And that's a beautiful way to start a relationship. Codependent relationships are always doomed to fail. They're always, hey, Steph, good to see you. Codependent relationships. I'll get to your question as soon as as I'm done this part. Codependent relationships are always doomed to fail. And the reason why they're doomed to fail is because that other person is depending upon you for their own survival regulation, their own emotional regulation, their own financial regulation. Their relationship just says, hey, look, we're great, I'm great, you're great, but I think we could even make this better. One is approaching it from, the codependent view is approaching it from a I don't have enough perspective, whereas the interdependent relationship is focused on I do have enough. I feel really good that I have enough, but I want more. And I think us coming together will magnify or maximize that enjoyment. Do you guys see the difference there? So there's interdependence and codependence, and the codependence is I need you, and if I don't have you, I fall down. Interdependence is I want you so I can maximize. It's a totally different orientation, and you'll feel the difference in that orientation. So how do we get out of this? Well, I'm actually going to go to Stephanie's question here because I think she brings up a great question, and it was where I wanted to go next. She says, here's a question: how to navigate the relationship when you are more interdependent and your partner is more codependent. So that's a great question. The first thing I would say, Stephanie, is what exactly are they looking for? Like, what is it that they need from you that you're giving to them? And what is it that you need from them? Because we can be codependent and interdependent in different areas. Like I said before, you might need you might need emotional. And I know this isn't you, Stephanie, because I've talked with you plenty times. But you might need emotional regulation, and he might need financial security. Like there's some codependency there. So it would really depend on where is he being codependent, and where do you think you're not being codependent? And you might not be, but there's something deeper there. Like if we're dating someone has some codependent tendencies, we might have some codependent tendencies within us that we don't realize. So I'd be interested to hear about that. So while I'm waiting on Stephanie's reply, I'm gonna go into this a little bit deeper. Does this make sense, you guys? The difference between the codependency and the interdependency? Like codependency is I need, whereas interdependency is I want. And we can go back and forth between these stages at times. Like sometimes people fall on rough times financially, and they might actually be dependent upon another person. But we want to create as much independence as we can within ourselves. Because the more independence you create within yourself, the more successful you're going to be, the more enjoyable life will be. When you're independent emotionally, when you're independent financially, you're going to feel very free within yourself. Most people are looking for freedom, but they're looking for freedom through other people. They're financially dependent upon other people. Maybe they're not financially independent, but they're emotionally independent on that other person. So really understanding what it is that we're getting from another person, it's really key to recognize where we're at, what we're getting from another person and what they're getting from us, and asking ourselves, do I really need that? Do they really need this from me? Or is this based upon mutual want? And it's making agreements. I'll get into a little bit more about agreements, but Stephanie's sharing something. She says, thanks. You're right. I think I'm working through my own codependency deep down. Yeah, absolutely. And Stephanie, the biggest thing here when it comes to codependency is like, what is it that you feel like you really need? Like, what is it that you think he's giving you that you have to have? Or what is it that you think he's giving you that you think you need that you haven't given to yourself? Because I promise you, everyone, if we're willing to go into those painful spots, and it's helpful to have people to walk us through this. That's why I have my own coaches and mentors. And because whenever I wanted to overcome a pattern and I started realizing there was a pattern within me, they can hold space for us through that and walk us through it instead of getting caught up there for years. When I finally realized that I had certain codependency issues, which I don't anymore, but back in the day, and they came to the surface, it was like really hard to face. It hurt. There were parts of me that didn't want to be that way. And it was my shadow self. And I said, no, like, that's not me. I'm not like that. But then once I actually came up on those issues, I was like, wow, I was really codependent and I didn't realize it. So it's not easy to admit that we have needs for another person. But it's part of the process of healing. And then once you overcome that pattern, you'll feel more freer in yourself, which will allow you to have a better relationship. Like, the less codependent we are on other people for our needs, the freer those relationships will feel, which will bring more enjoyment into our life. The freer the relationships you have in your life, the more enjoyable they will be. Does this make sense, you guys? Awesome. What other questions do you guys have? Any other questions that we have here? Any other questions? So I'm just going to take this a little bit deeper in terms of comparing interdependence and codependence. So we've talked about interdependence is having wants, whereas codependence is having needs and needing those needs to be met. It's perfectly normal and natural to want to have a certain need met or to have a desire. But what's not natural is trying to control the other person because you're concerned or worried that you're not going to have those needs met. I'll give you a perfect example of this. This was a long time ago. One of my clients, they were married, and the person that he was married was trying to get impregnated by him because she knew that if she could get impregnated by him, then that they would be linked together and that he would have to pay her child support. Horrible thing. But some people, like, she didn't trust herself to be able to make money for herself. So she thought that she had to do this thing where she would get impregnated by him, and then that would make him pay child support, and that would keep her covered. And so everyone is always looking at everything as their own security. So when we act, quote unquote, erratic in this way, it's not necessarily erratic. It's just that we're finding our security in that other person. And anytime that you find your security in another person outside of yourself, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for exhaustion. Everything, all our actions come down to wanting to feel safe. And so if you can create that safety in all areas of your life, let's say you know how to make money and you trust your ability to make money. Great. That's awesome. Financial security, you know you can provide it for yourself. You don't need to try to manipulate someone into paying for your stuff by getting them pregnant or by you and getting impregnated by them. That's just one example. Emotional security. That's another point. I remember at one point in my life, I didn't really know how to process my own emotions because no one ever showed me that. And so I was in relationships with women who helped me process my emotions, but I was dependent upon them to process my emotions. And I didn't like that. And so I told myself, I'm going to do the work. I'm going to go to therapy. And then after I did therapy for years, I did coaching and I learned how to process my own emotions. And so I didn't have to depend upon anyone else. Every human being ultimately wants freedom. That's what it comes down to. Every human being ultimately wants freedom. They want a free sense of self. They want a free sense of, they want to be able to feel like they can do everything alone, but choose to bring more people in their life. Like, that's a place of pure power. When you don't need anything outside of you in terms of people to help you process your emotions or people to pay for your stuff, Like that's being dependent upon other individuals when you think you need other people in your life to do those things for you. But when you learn how to do all those things for you and you build that trust within yourself, that's a great place to be. And so I'm going to share with you guys something that I learned here. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to bring them up. I'm going to share with you guys another map. And I love using this map because it really helps us to understand just how we can build up security within ourselves so we don't feel like we have to have a codependent relationship with another person for whatever reason. So ultimately, in everything, there's three types of relationships, or there's two types of relationships, and there's three types of zones within those relationships. So hopefully you guys can see. Yep, cool. You can see my screen. So in anything, this is what we have. We have three zones, right? So we have a comfort zone, an uncomfort zone, and a panic zone. And all learning happens here in the uncomfort zone. So we're going to put learning. All learning happens here, right? What happens in a relationship? Let's say that you have no comfort. You do not trust your ability to make any money by yourself. So if making money by yourself is really scary for you, then you're going to become dependent upon other people to make money. And that breeds codependence. But let's say that you finally learn how to make money for yourself and you got in a relationship with someone because you knew that, you knew at that time when you were in that relationship, you didn't trust yourself to make money, but now you have trusting your ability to make money. You might end up letting go of that relationship because the initial reason why you came together in that relationship was to make more money. Was because you didn't trust yourself to make money. And so as we leave our comfort zone and extend out into the uncomfort zone or the learning zone, you learn to build more independence. Now, here's the thing. We don't want to go so far out of our comfort zone that we end up in our panic zone, because if we end up in our panic zone, what's going to happen is we're going to get traumatized and we're going to go all the way back to our comfort zone. And so the best thing that we can do is always be moving into our uncomfort zone in all areas of our life, whether it's finances, whether it's emotional relationship, whatever it may be, until we have ultimate independence in all aspects of our lives. When you have ultimate independence, and hey, Cindy, good to see you. When you have independence in all aspects of your lives, everything in life is more enjoyable. And everything becomes more enjoyable because you don't feel like you're dependent upon someone else for something. So we want to create as many interdependent relationships in our life as possible. Those are the most enjoyable ones, but you can only create interdependent relationships with other people when you've created a sense of security and belief within yourself around whether making money, around emotional processing, whatever it may be. So really, it's all about creating emotional, interdependent relationships that create a sense of independence. Interdependent relationships are based off of mutual want. Hey, I want you, you want me. We're going to make each other's lives better. Not I need you, you need me. If we lose each other, we're both screwed. So let's just stay in this together. Codependent relationships are grounds for creating emotions of resentment, emotions of insecurity, emotions of fear, because if you don't have that person, then you get scared or you get very fearful. That's the very nature of a codependent relationship is I need you. And if I don't have you, then I'm scared. And so I'm going to act erratic in order to keep you. And I will do dangerous things in order to keep you in my life, because if I don't have you, I don't feel safe or secure. So codependent relationships are always grounds for not creating a healthy relationship. When we're in an interdependent relationship, we open ourselves up to more joy, more enjoyment, more sense of freedom, and that will filter into the relationship as well. Beautiful. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. If you like what you've seen here, please share with any family or friends. I want this work to go out in the world. I know it helps individuals. It's changed my life. Check out the Sacred Relationship series Laura and I are doing right now. There's some links there in the YouTube description box below. So we have the Sacred Relationship series. We're interviewing a number of individuals. We have Renee Slonsky. We're going to interview her tomorrow, so be looking out for that. Laura and I do live coaching twice a week. If you want to sign up for live coaching, check that out. There are the links there below. And if you want to show up for the other interviews, check that out. The links there. You can sign up to get notifications for the interviews and the live coaching sessions that we'll be doing. That's all I got for this time. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye for now.